yet. Apologies there. I rely on the recordings and it hasn't been posted yet. But I'll send those as soon as possible. Okay.
Okay, recording is good.
Yeah, originally I was taking a lot of notes, but I've just been relying on the recordings. All right, so let me blow this up and increase that to a couple 100%.
Thank you.
Yep. All right. I didn't see any. Okay, so we'll just move on down. This is the draft that I sent to you all. There was some red text, which was additions or changes from last meeting, or that were advised at last meeting. There were a little bit of tweaks that I made, but we can go over them. The only addition that I made since you last saw this was Tim suggested to have adopting zoning for the first time publication as an appendix.
So the town board will have access to it.
Okay. And I mean, an alternative, Tim, is that I could reference its link, or, just as
I
easy
think
to.
if we included the PDF, that would be good.
Great.
That way people can just directly read it.
Great. So summary addition, just adding language about the appendix for the task force resolution, which was recommended last time. 2 new bullet points that Ellen had recommended. This will be 14 task meetings. And then down on the priority actions, originally these were flipped. It was originally adopt the zoning ordinance, and then the second one was adopt the revised site plan review law in the zoning ordinance. But the consensus from the task force was to have the site plan review law independent of a zoning ordinance and have it be first, and then to appoint a zoning commission as second. Any comments there?
I don't know. I sent out an email very late in the afternoon after reading through all of this again and just thinking through what lies ahead. And I think it wasn't in this section, but a little bit farther down.
Yeah.
1 second, I just had to change my view. And this came in during the site plan review and design standards. And I'm wondering if you all might want to consider in the description of the design standards, site plan review standards, adding that the site plan review and design standards will have the strongest authority if embedded within a zoning ordinance. And then recommending that the town of Caroline adopt a revised site plan review law, ideally within the legal context of a zoning ordinance. What concerns me is, given all that we've read and all that we've heard, I want to make sure that the town board understands what we've learned about the ideal legal envelope of a zoning ordinance with site plan review. This wouldn't preclude doing it separately, but I think it would maybe give a stronger guidance to the town board in regards to a preference.
Tim, this is Barb. I agree with that. I think that language, pertains later on, but I am supportive of the revision that Greg made, which was to put the site plan review law recommendation first,
Yeah,
and then the appointing a zoning commission
no,
second.
that's fine. I mean, if it's contextual. I mean, I actually don't think, in terms of the priority actions, which one is first and second much matters, to tell you the truth. They're both priority actions.
Right.
Okay, so then maybe when we get down to that section, we can.
Sure.
There might just
Yeah,
be.
sorry, I didn't mean to jump the gun here.
Great. Okay, so then additional actions: prepare an economic profile for town of Caroline that would guide economic impact review or assessment. adopt a town-specific scenic resources inventory, and consider adopting a town environmental quality review act. This is not expanded on further down. It was just added here. Are there any other comments on that?
Well,
Yeah.
I have a comment in that section. In the comprehensive plan as it's written, they have about 3 places where they talk about people of all identities, as they're trying to say, we have to focus on everybody in the communities. Include but not limited to race, gender, sexual orientation, age, religion, disability, national origin, and economic standing or veteran status. And that would be on page, I know one of the pages is I-5. And I just wonder if something like maybe after number 1, that something could say that an environmentally justice statement might be warranted.
Yeah,
This would give us the status of the people of Caroline.
Ken, I commend your comment on that, because I think that is a very good statement to have. The town, I know it does encourage in their comprehensive plan to incorporate an environmental justice statement or to work on that. I don't believe that that's the charge of the task force, because it's certainly environmental justice happens through land use, or can happen, or cannot happen. But I think environmental justice is also broader, even more than land use. So I would recommend just not having it in here, particularly because we haven't necessarily worked on the subject or incorporated it into any of these action items or charges of the task force. But it's certainly a good comment just in general to make sure to hold the town's feet to the fire, because that is in the comprehensive plan or in the revised one.
So what I'd say from the planning board's perspective is that that's something we'll definitely, and we're going to try to push that. I mean, I think that's my job is to sort of make sure the town board doesn't forget that part's in the comp plan. And I'm happy if Ken or others want to make sure that we don't forget that it's in the comp plan. But I tend to side with Greg on this, that this report's probably not the right place for that statement. But I agree the town should have one, and keep our feet to the fire so we keep their feet to the fire. That's been my view.
Thanks, Bill.
Barb?
Yeah, I'm concerned about including a recommendation that has no text to go with it. So I like the idea of a recommendation and action about a town environmental quality review act, but it would seem that at least a short paragraph ought to explain what that is and why in the following section.
Certainly, and I didn't add that, and I'm happy to, or I can even just talk about it here, but we haven't gone into that, and we haven't in any of our meetings. Essentially, what a town environmental quality review act would do is just raise the bar from the state's benchmarks. It would just require, it may require other types of development to go through an environmental quality review versus what the state mandates. So kind of like how the site plan review thresholds are being modified to be tighter in some areas, the Town Environmental Quality Review Act, traditionally, they would tighten what the state requires. So because we haven't talked about it, and I think Barb brings up a good point, is that it is something that was mentioned as to look into, but we just hadn't looked into it in depth to where I didn't feel necessarily comfortable to be writing about it.
So
Could we do what I totally agree with Barbara that there needs to be at least a short paragraph, but it sounds to me like, Greg, you could easily do a short paragraph that sort of says, under this state law, you can adopt this thing. And what it would do would be to give the potential for stricter whatever. And all we're saying is consider it. So I don't think it should be hard to write a short paragraph.
And that's fine. I'm going to argue slightly against that, only in that I agree, it hasn't really come up in the committee, the task force. If it had been discussed more, I'd be more comfortable with it being in the action. Now, I like the idea. I'm the one that put it in the goddamn comp plan.
Right.
And I'm expecting, that's a bigger lift than other items that are in the comp plan. So I hope it happens. I don't mind it being in here, but I'm quite uncomfortable with the committee putting that in there if they really haven't talked about it at all. So, I just throw that out. I personally would say it should be deleted just because you haven't talked about it.
And I feel like we've discussed a lot about environmental reviews, and
Yeah.
that's been a substantial desire on our part, is to look at those kinds of things. And I think it's been mentioned by Greg a number of times that TICR might be an avenue. So personally, I feel what I would do is ask the group right now, do we want to leave this in? I think there's been enough discussion of environmental stuff, and this doesn't say adopt it, it says consider it. So I think we would all agree to that. And Tim, I would ask you to ask us.
And I was,
I have a question.
sure.
Go ahead. I have a question for Bill. Is the planning board gonna consider this and take action on it?
No, but
Just
they did-
like the environmental justice statement?
Right. So, yes, but with the big but that, again, it's a fair amount of work, I anticipate. So I don't know if the planning board could actually do all the work, or would basically make a strong recommendation to the town board and say, hey, appoint another committee to actually figure out what the TICR would look like. That's the part that's hard. An environmental justice statement is a relatively easy lift. So I can imagine our planning board writing one. So that's why I can guarantee you that we'll get one written by this summer. But an actual development of a town environmental quality review act is a bigger proposition. So I can't promise that we'll do it, because frankly, I don't know if I've got the manpower to do it, but I'm hoping to, is all I can tell you. I'm strongly in favor of it.
Okay.
And some
is
of
there-
that wouldn't it depend, Bill, some of that would also depend upon the preferences of the town board in terms of what it would like the planning board to be working
Well,
on.
Thank you, Tim, for putting me back in my place.
I'm just wondering if the language could be changed so, rather than consider adopting, just work toward the adoption of, or
That's stronger than consider.
that's strong. Well, yeah, I'm just, but it's toward rather than, you're not jumping the gun on adopting before you've done the research.
How about just consider a town environmental quality review?
Good. You got it.
So I guess I will pose the question whether we would all be comfortable with that, assuming, Greg, is it feasible for you to pop in a paragraph describing this in the report?
Yeah, and on that, my intention, because this should be submitted to you, finalized tomorrow, Tim, correct?
Well, and if we had to wait a day, we waited a day,
Okay, then I guess if everyone can just, my aim is to clean this up tonight and then send it first thing tomorrow morning for everyone to just read back over, and then, so certainly I can add something. It would just
And it would be great if we could get it in tomorrow, but So
Yeah.
can I have can we just take a poll?
And what's it
Um,
going to say? Is it going to say consider a TICR? Take out the
Yes.
word. Okay, if it says that.
So can all those who would be in favor of including this, please raise your hand. And keep your hands raised because I have to actually scroll down my screen. Opposed? Ken, are you opposed or are you in favor? I can't tell.
No, that's fine. It's okay.
Okay, good. So Great.
Great. Okay. Moving on down the list. And please stop me, but I'm just going to go to the things that were in red in general. Oh, and so you all saw my note that I'm keeping in because the specific language of the task force was to consider examining formula business restrictions. I kept that in. Just to
Greg, I'm
keep-
sorry, can you go back up for 1 second? Because my
Yeah.
mic wasn't working earlier. What I understood Tim to be saying is in those actions, the recommended actions, the first two, that the phrase essentially ideally under zoning be added to number 1. Tim, is that correct?
Or at least under the description down below.
Yeah, description down below, I got it, because there's a whole section,
I think it
essentially a
would be
phrase or
helpful.
sentence.
I think it would be helpful if it was under number 1. It would be instructive.
Right, so I just want to ask people about that, because I thought that's what your intent was, or if you want to not do it, so. It could be a parenthetical remark, ideally under zoning, but I don't know. And then that's explained in the text as to why that's true, or we don't do it here and we just explain all of it in the text. How do people like it better?
I don't care.
It'd be fine to be in both places.
Okay. I've heard the word ideally being used.
Which number are we looking at now?
Where's,
Oh,
Whoop.
Ideally as part of a zoning ordinance, as part of, rather.
Thank you. Okay. I'm gonna just keep scrolling.
Yep.
I added the note about that Jonathan Bates and Catherine Seeley were initially involved, but not members at the time of this report. The task force was divided into 3 subcommittees: formula business restrictions, economic impact review, and site plan review / design standards. Moving on down, I just made a note about the section of the town law about site plan review. And so here is where I'm hearing that, so this would also say the recommendation for the site plan task force recommends that the town of Caroline adopt the revised site plan review law, ideally as part of a zoning ordinance.
And what I was going to recommend everyone is that within the descriptive language up above.
Yeah.
Oh, yes.
Yeah,
At some point to say that the site plan review and design standards, our findings have determined that the site plan review and design standards will have the strongest authority if embedded within a zoning ordinance.
So Tim, what do you think that, because that language is in the zoning language, and it can definitely be strengthened and clarified. So moving into zoning, I do mention it here that while site plan review law establishes the review process and requirements for specific developments, the authority of the law falls short of being able to regulate the location of specific uses. So, but I could expand that just by saying that because they both do work well together, and they are maximized the best together.
why don't you just move those 2 sentences up under the site plan review? Because I think that's probably where it should be said. I think they,
As a
I
seg-
guess
as a segue to the zoning.
yeah.
Okay. Any objections to that?
That's fine, though I think, again, Tim's point, I think it's an important one, is that the site plan law itself is stronger if it's if there's zoning around it, right? If it falls within the authority of zoning too. So it's not just that zoning gives you site-specific abilities, it's that we feel, based on what we've read, that the site plan guidelines, standards, et cetera, are more enforceable if they're within a zoning ordinance. That's my understanding. So I think that is the phrase Tim's asking to ask, and I would agree, that would be good to add. I don't know.
Yes. And I hear that too. So I think I would add another sentence after this one here, after the one in red, about just that they are, yeah, because that is an important piece of that.
Yeah. Is that something you want to wordsmith later rather than put in now? It's fine with me either way.
I trust him.
Mhm.
Well, I mean, I'll sit it out, but I guess I just want to be mindful of time that.
And no, just add yourself a note either on paper or right there, put phrase in here about,
Yep. Yep. And I'll have that language be red, so it's easy to see. This is just my flag for coming back to it. But I would just keep it at likely just a sentence or two of just
perfect.
that they're both maximized. It's one thing to regulate the location of uses in terms of zonings, zoning in the regard of zoning, but it's another to use site plan review to require these developments to go through a review process. And similarly, site plan review is strong, but not being able to be tied to specific uses or locations necessarily, it just falls a little bit short. I mean,
That's way too many words, but basically that it's, they're better together, right? to quote an ex-politician.
Right. Okay. Any other thoughts on that? Right.
Yeah, can you just scroll back up, Greg? I just noticed something. Keep going. The second major area of focus, just say centers on the design guidelines.
Or was the design guidelines.
Or centered on the design guidelines.
Okay. This section, I certainly could have gone into more detail about all the other sort of areas that were modified. I just wanted to bring up two kind of higher level.
Right.
Okay, great. Any other thoughts? I'll just keep scrolling down into zoning. So this is a fairly short section, but the recommendation was changed. Tim suggested to add language about contingency on the revised comprehensive plan, which is actually a requirement of zoning de facto. That's how you use that phrase, but that zoning does need to take place only after a comprehensive plan has been adopted. And okay, all right.
Maybe this would be a place just to refer to
The appendix.
the appendix document that we're including for background.
Yeah, I can add some language about that. I'll just make a note of that. Okay. All right, just reference some other town law sections. Moving on down the list. Nothing changed here. So then we're getting into economic impact review. And so the recommendation was to change the questions that I had originally into topics, which I think was a good idea.
Yeah.
So I didn't hear any other comments that came forward before this meeting about these. And again, this list is not meant to be exhaustive by any means.
Alan, you had something, but maybe it goes elsewhere.
But still adding the benefits.
I'm wondering, Ken raised a bunch of things. And I didn't check to see whether they fall under these topics.
he had suggestions, I think good suggestions for the economic sheet.
Yeah, and we can go over those in a little bit.
But I guess what I'm saying is,
There
if there
was
were
one,
topics, I'm sorry, go ahead, Barbara.
yeah, there was one item that Ken suggested that is not here, and that was the impact on neighboring property values. Now, the other points that Ken made in the questionnaire, I think, fall under these topics, but that was the one that wasn't there.
Good.
And we can discuss the sheet in a little bit. So. Okay, and this language was generally added by Barbara Lynch before our last meeting, but I kept it in red this time. I think because I modified a sentence, actually, that's the reason.
The word profile, economic profile, appears above.
So we've used profile and inventory.
Inventory. You're using them interchangeably. It might be good to decide on one rather than,
Let's call it an economic inventory.
okay.
All right. Okay, so this is just what
That just needs to be wordsmith because requiring doesn't require. So let me just think for a second.
yeah, yep.
Yeah,
For this type of review,
or to conduct this type of review.
fine, to conduct this type of review, the town would first need to develop.
Would first need to. Yeah.
Couldn't you just say this type of review would require the town or something?
Sure.
Sure.
This type of review would require the town to develop an economic inventory.
Yeah, to develop it, yeah.
Yep.
Get rid of some of those
Yep,
words.
yep.
Okay, thank you. Moving on down. So this section changed up a little bit. An economic inventory of Caroline would establish the market potential of the town. The analysis could be used as a reference for requiring an economic impact assessment from proposed businesses. Ellen had a comment as well. Ellen, do you want me to pull that up?
I can read it to you.
Okay, sure.
I suggested we had a positive thing to say, which is it would also provide information useful in the development of policies and practices to encourage the types of businesses that best promote the vision for the town embodied in the comprehensive plan.
That's good.
Yep, I'm in favor.
Yep. Nice.
Nice to do something positive.
Thank you. All right. Whoops. Well, that's pretty big. Let's see.
You can fix that later.
Okay. I'm going to fix it now. Just want to get it. I'll leave it as blue for right now. Okay. And then I'm still using the definition of economic impact assessment. And the only change to this definition was it originally listed temporary and full-time, part-time, and living wage. I just said an analysis that estimates the number and type of jobs. I feel like that captures all of that.
Are we back to the question of, okay, impact assessment versus?
Yeah. So I'll remind, this is under the additional recommendations section. So currently, right now, the main recommendation is from the economic impact review sort of analysis is to require an economic information sheet as part of the site plan application. An additional recommendation is to secure an economic inventory. And then this economic impact assessment could also be further looked into. This is coming from because last time the language was pulled from section 3.030 about economic and fiscal impact, giving discretionary authority to the review board to require one. The thought from the group was that based on just advice from the state and just from general consensus was that the economic impact assessment of requiring one would be stronger and less arbitrary if there was something in place such as an economic information sheet, as well as mainly, I should say, an economic inventory of the town.
And I think that's a good recap of where I think we were.
Okay.
The only thing I want to again ask people is, what do we think the review board is supposed to do with the information that it collects from the economic data sheet? What am I supposed to do when they say, we're going to have a bunch of part-time, no benefit, low wage jobs? And I'm going to think, well, that's too bad. That's not really a benefit to the town. But I'm not sure what I'm supposed to do with that. Is that a review criteria in the site plan review law? I should remember.
For what? To produce a sheet?
No.
Or for having the
criteria, that it's an economic benefit to the town, or that the benefit outweighs the costs or something. I don't remember enough. I should, since I'm on that review board, but I don't remember enough whether we have that as some kind of a criteria we're supposed to look at. And if not, we should maybe put it in.
Yeah.
Yeah, let's see. I could pull that up quickly.
Actually, I can do that if other people want to talk about other things.
No, it was generally pulled. So the language that was modified in the site plan review criteria under proposed development for the submittal was the original language, or at least I think it was actually proposed language from the site plan review subcommittee, was to add, and I'd have to go back through a couple iterations of the review law, but it was to add language about that the development shall have no
I have it in front of me. I think the most recent one, Greg, I think what it says is the development shall minimize adverse impacts on existing businesses, particularly local businesses located in the town, and should support the town's continued economic viability. In addition, the development shall not have a negative fiscal impact on the town budget.
What section of the review of the law is that in?
030.
Oh, okay. So in the new, yes, in the new section that was added.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
Yeah, it's the bottom of page 18 if
Yeah.
anybody's trying to find it in the document, the 12/4 dated document, I believe.
That's funny. It's on the top of 19 in my page.
Oh,
They're
okay.
right there. So does those things, jibe? I'm not
Yeah.
sure that it's not going to be an impact on local businesses, and it's not going to be a fiscal impact on the town to hire, to abuse your workers.
But it is in a way, because you, either it's the town and the county, I guess, that if workers are not adequately supported, then they become a burden on the town and the county.
Yeah, that's a pretty far stretch in
Yeah.
terms of the town, particularly since we don't deal
Yeah.
with
It's more at the county level, I think.
Yeah.
this.
I mean, isn't the main issue concerns negative impact on the town's budget? And that seems relatively clear.
Then why are we asking these other questions?
So I guess my view of it always was there was the town budget side, but the other was basically hurting other businesses that are already established in the town, particularly if they were owned by local people. And there's those damn out of towners coming in and ruining local business. Okay, that was sort of the idea. It's economic protectionism perhaps, but it was, you know, we've got thriving businesses that have been here for a long time. Why do we want to put them out of business? I get a little queasy with these questions about how many part-time employees and benefits, et cetera. That wasn't where I was going when I put out the economic impact idea, but you know, that's where the committee went, so.
I mean, I think it's something we care about. And there
Yeah.
was an interesting article in the New Yorker about how dollar stores understaff and put their workers at total risk of being held up and, you know, horrible things. But I don't know that we can deal with that.
Part
I
of the
guess,
thing-
well, I have a question about this. I think Ken might have alluded to that in his comments actually today. Is what if the business coming in provides better benefits than the local businesses? Like, I'm not 100% sure that
You go the
local
other-
businesses offer, you know, living wages and stuff. And so what if the business coming in offers better benefits and they would in that way put a local business out of business?
Hey,
I mean, this is all very gnarly. I think it's,
it's a little bit gnarly, but I think you have to realize that the labor pool is larger than the town. So
that's true.
it gets very fuzzy very fast.
Though my view of it was always, it was a cost benefit thing, right? I mean, you sort of weigh the pluses and the minuses if you can. Now, again, that economic measuring is imprecise enough that that becomes a difficult thing because you do it right. But that was the idea, that if it was going to be a boon to the local economy, either because a lot of people got employed and had more income, great, even if it put somebody out of business. But if it brought in, you know, it didn't do that. If it, you know, helped that particular company, but not the town, then that wasn't so good.
Yeah,
Yeah, but I don't want to sit, I'm picturing myself on the board.
Yeah, no, I got, yeah,
I don't know.
yeah.
Yeah, and that's so yeah, that let me see where to begin. That's a good kind of comments on it from there, Ellen, just from your perspective about how you would review this economic information sheet. I think this goes back to what was advised by just this land use technician at the state. She had said to me that you know, requiring an economic impact analysis, she just kept asking, well, what does the town want to get to understand essentially out of it? And if they can be certain about what they want to have out of it, do they want to increase the amount of local jobs by X%, or is it they want to expand their retail by a certain size, or add certain value? And that would really require having just a baseline analysis of what the town is capable of absorbing, because saying language about we want local businesses is not enough. I mean, if the market doesn't support that local business, then it's just not going to happen. So I guess on this subject is that this is certainly a concern of the task force and of the town, or it's a big issue. It was part of our charge to look at, and traditionally, these economic impact analyses are set for certain sizes of developments, just similarly to the site plan review thresholds. The recommendation was to just add this in for all the developments. And then that got pulled back a little bit to saying that maybe it should be discretionary, to then it being pulled back even further, saying that maybe it just should be taken out. So it might be something that, because, looking just right down below at the next requirement in the site plan review is site restoration requirements, and that at the discretion of the review board that the development might be required to post escrow funds. This is another sort of discretionary approval that had the consensus of the task force to just stay in and just see what the town attorney might think. So I guess what I'm just saying is that either there's just two options. One is to leave the language about that the review board may require an economic impact assessment and just see what the attorney thinks, or just keeping it left out, and then keeping the reason for this economic information sheet is to just at least begin to require development providing economic information, so that possibly in the future, then when there is an economic baseline analysis done, that there's at least a starting step of having this economic information sheet done, and that the town review board can use this and the baseline inventory to ask for maybe an assessment from a development.
I think that, I'm thinking again, here I am on the review board and I'm reading these things. It gives me at least a platform to challenge the developer with.
Yeah.
Why are you only doing part-time jobs? Why aren't you providing benefits? It gives me a way to at least, I probably can't approve or deny based on their answers, but at least it gives me some information and the potential to push. And I think maybe adding language back about the environmental at the discretion of the board, partly that is, we don't have to revise the law then when the town does an inventory. We get the background information, we already have it in the law, we don't have to change the law. So I think maybe we should do the questions. We'll revise the list later, and then maybe we should leave in that sentence about at the discretion of the board. And basically, the board probably recognized that we shouldn't probably ask for that until and unless we have an inventory. I don't know.
Are there other thoughts on that? It looks like Tim might have did. Tim?
Or maybe, sorry.
Jason.
Okay. Yeah. Maybe we need to put the focus on to avoid the adverse impact on the local business. Are we going to protect local business, or just to achieve something bigger than, because maybe the sentence is bothering. I mean, it confused me, and maybe confuse everybody here. Why do we need a economic inventory? Because the word of economic and fiscal impact is to minimize adverse impact on existing business. Is that our objective, to protect local business no matter what, or just to make a better business in the town?
Yeah.
And I expect we're a little bit legally around to protect local businesses. And I think we saw some in some of the readings that, so, I guess I look at the economic sheet, the question sheet, as sort of like the short form for the seeker, right? That if you guys have that, then you can get a sense of, oh, this is a big project because they're saying 100 employees, maybe we should require an economic impact assessment. And that maybe the language in the site plan review that the economic impact assessment needs to show a net benefit to the town.
So for the town, for the
Yes,
benefit. of the town.
only because I would love it to say something different, but I'm not sure that it can legally. So
Mhm.
I think Yasmin was asking us, and I think it's quite right to ask, that in the site plan review law draft that we are working on,
Yeah.
it says development shall minimize adverse impacts on existing businesses, particularly local businesses. Maybe what we really just want to say is should support the town's continued economic viability.
I see.
That's a good idea. That's
That's a
great.
good-
Right.
Yeah,
I agree.
Yeah,
And not.
that's a good point.
So just, so you're suggesting to delete this that I have highlighted here.
Yep.
Are there any objections? I didn't ask if there were.
Sounds
So
That's
under
good.
this discretion, the town board can, use economic, whether to dig more or just say, yeah, you cannot come here, something like, I don't know.
Okay, so then on this language about the review board may require an economic impact assessment, I'm not clear. Is it recommended to just put that back in?
I wouldn't, but, I don't know if it should also say, based on its review of the economic,
Economic.
whatever, whatever other thing the review board may require, something like that.
Mhm.
Based
And
on
that-
what?
The economic information sheet.
Sure. Okay.
Okay.
Okay, now we go back to the report.
Yep.
yeah.
Couldn't you take out, have based on the economic information sheet instead of
Right.
Yeah.
all
Sure.
that there?
Sure.
Yeah.
Thank you.
A man of few words.
Mhm.
That might need a little wordsmithing, Greg,
you,
though.
Bill.
Just right now, it says you do the environmental impact statement kind of with the information from the environmental information sheet, which is not quite correct. So it just needs a little bit wordsmithing there.
Yeah,
That
all right.
the review, the request is based on, the request is informed by the information sheet, but the economic impact assessment is based on a whole lot of other stuff.
Good point,
So
Barb.
it just needs to be wordsmithed.
Okay. All right. Let me, I can, if everyone's okay, I can just come back to that and then just send it out
Sure.
first thing tomorrow morning. Okay.
Yes.
Let me screen share.
Hi, honey, I love you and I'm in the middle of a Zoom meeting. Bye.
We love you too, Ellen.
No, we love you even more.
Oh, yeah, apparently I love you even more. My daughter in California. Hi, God. It's a sad state of affairs.
Mm.
So then back to this section about economic inventory. I think it can remain the same. Well,
It could be used as a reference to inform an economic impact assessment.
Yes.
Yes.
to inform
To
requiring.
inform.
To inform.
It just informs a reference to inform an economic impact assessment, because they would then be able to contextualize their economic impacts relative to what's happening in the town based on the inventory information.
Although it informs a decision to require an economic impact
That's what I
assessment.
think we're saying.
No, isn't the economic inventory is what the developer would use
Or when,
in relationship to establishing
right.
the
Not
impact
necess-
assessment
Not the developer, but the review board.
or the review board.
Mhm.
I see. Yeah.
So the
Yeah, I can see with it requiring, because basically if the business is big compared to essentially our local economy, right, then that's more likely when you're gonna wanna, so I agree, this looks good.
Okay.
Right.
All right. So that is it. And then I'm going to just, I mean, I'll add language. Let's say it's 8 o'clock right now. I mean, the language will be about Teaker. And I will just come back to that. I don't need to waste everyone's time watching me try to poorly type. So but that'll come. I can highlight that in an email too, just to make it clear.
Looks like Ken is trying to ask something.
Oh, Ken, sorry.
Please, can you go back up to formula business restrictions? I saw something there that I want to ask a question about when I read this. Maybe it's not in there anymore.
Can you see it here, Ken?
There was, well, at one time, I don't know exactly where it was, but it was brought out that a majority of the town wanted this, and I don't ever remember having any kind of vote or anything like that, so I don't know exactly where that statement
Oh,
was.
it's down at the bottom. It says, however, the majority of.
Is it,
and
is
then
it a little
goes-
farther down?
Here,
So-
it's
Yeah.
down there and then it goes to the next page.
Okay. So Ken, yeah, right. However, the
I don't see it
majority,
yet.
it's because it's between 2 pages. It's hard to, but the sentence is, however, it's regarding that based on the research of the subcommittee, that a formula business restriction ordinance would be legally unprecedented in Caroline. However, the majority of public input on the matter favors a proactive response to the potential development of formula businesses in the town. So you're suggesting to,
I don't know where they come up with the majority there.
Well, I can
When-
do that. So if it said the majority of the public, Ken, I would agree with you. There's been no vote. But it says the majority of the public input. And the public input occurred at the first moratorium public hearing. And there was a lot of public input that suggested the town should be proactive. So I think the phrase majority of public input is correct. So that's my reading of the history.
No.
Tim, any?
It could be.
When I looked
perhaps a
over
good-
some of that, it was about half and half.
Does it matter? Could we take out the word majority? Could we say something about significant public input, suggests a concern about or something like that? I mean, we didn't take votes. I don't know if it matters that we have to.
significance a good, I think, word. that
Better
doesn't-
than saying a majority.
Yes.
Okay. Okay.
Suggest or suggested or something rather than favors.
Yeah, or recommends.
And sure. Oh. Okay.
I like
That's
I like
much better.
suggests better.
Suggest is fine.
Yeah, that's fine with me too.
Fine.
Yeah.
Whoop.
Oh,
Okay. Thanks, Ken.
Thank you. You're welcome. Thank you.
Yep. So that's it on the report. Are there any final thoughts on that?
I think it's
Thank you.
good.
Thank you for putting this together, Greg. It's very helpful.
Yep. Great. And I will, so as I said, I'll just kind of clean this up tonight. Add language about Teaker, modify the language about site plan review being stronger in zoning. Add the appendix D reference, which is the adopting zoning for the first time. And then I'll send that off first thing tomorrow for everyone just to look at so that we can hand it over to Tim hopefully later in the day, or I guess maybe earliest Wednesday morning.
I mean, if we could have it tomorrow, it would be really excellent. I
Yeah.
mean, it's not, obviously the town board's not going to have time to read through it before
Sure.
tomorrow night, but
Yeah, I would like to get it to you.
it could be a helpful placeholder to have.
Yes. So, okay, if I'll send everyone comments first thing tomorrow morning or no later. And if you can provide comments the day, I can get it back over to Tim.
Good.
Great, thank you. Are there any other comments on the site plan review law? I didn't see any come over on email.
I have
Okay.
one tiny thing. I want to add 2 words, I think.
All right, let me just get there. Okay.
Bill, was this from your suggestion or someone in your household
No, this is me.
who has an editorial eye?
Yeah, no. Yeah, that's right. No, I didn't give either the law or the plan, the report to the editor. Okay, so you can all, at any rate, page 15. It is, this is the road. It's 0.6 under the roads. There. So shall not result in a significant decrease in the quality of the road. I would recommend quality or lifetime of the road. Where the extra traffic really tends to show up is in decreased longevity of the lifespan. Quality there to me sort of means, oh yeah, might tear up the top, which is important, but that's my recommendation.
Good.
Okay. Hearing no objections. All right. Thanks, Bill.
No problem.
One thing I think need to add is because now we have the phrase economic information sheet, I will need to add that to the definitions. I don't believe that is in there.
And I wondered, one of my comments on
Oh,
the economic information sheet is it uses the word local. And it doesn't, it defines it under one of them as within 100 miles, and in another, it doesn't define it. And I'm wondering whether the local definition belongs in here.
Oh,
I don't know.
it could be in either one. And, local is another fairly subjective term. So 100 miles, is it 50?
Or is it New York State? Depending
New
on,
York State?
if you're selling yogurt, is it New York State? If you're selling,
Yeah.
so, and maybe it speaks actually to keeping it in the information sheet, because that's not as rigorous or difficult to change. And it could, in fact, be different depending on which question you're asking, right? Because it came up on the information sheet under 2 things, I forget, whether the labor was going to be local or the produce was going to be local. And we might, you might want to define that differently.
Yeah, and yeah, that's a good suggestion too, or just distinction that I think for different things, maybe local, maybe having local material is New York State, but having local goods, yeah.
Okay,
I
we'll cross that later. We won't put it in here then. Let's stick with the site plan law for now.
Mhm.
sticking. I want to be sure. Sticking with the site plan review law, meaning
Not consider the local definition in the site.
got it,
plan review law.
got it,
We'll
got
do
it.
in everything. And just
Okay.
fit consideration of this.
You know what? I'm going to pull up. So Ken provided the most substantial comments, so I'll pull up that sheet. Wait, let's see. I'm sorry.
Right.
Are we done with site plan law?
Well, I also wanted to thank you. Yeah. Are there any other comments on the site plan review law?
So one of the things I was wondering actually is, that I would like to share this draft, near final, our recommended draft, with the site plan review board. just, I mean, obviously they can make comments when it comes up before the town board, but I'm wondering whether it would be a nice idea when we send this to the town board that we specifically send it to the review board. So we all, those people can have a good long look at it. Rather than, public hearing in 10 days or whatever. So, I mean, I can just send it on to them, I suppose, right?
I mean, Ellen, I'm wondering if it wouldn't be procedurally clean for us to present this to the town board for the town board's consideration, and then the town board obviously would consult other parties, but may want on its
Okay.
own terms to reflect on this initially anyway. And it just might gum up our works if we, at this
Okay.
stage of the games, start distributing this around to other parties.
Okay. I mean, it is public information, right?
Sure.
But I agree, it makes sense for the town board to actually ask the reviewer to look at it, I would think.
Yeah. Tim, why don't you be sure we do that?
Not to worry. I mean, we'll do
Well,
it,
Billy,
when
if you send
when-
it to the,
I mean, we
send it
have
to
a
the
number
site
of
review
things.
board, they might all quit.
But I mean, this is going to be a process, obviously. So all of these things will happen in due time.
Okay. Does anybody want me to just go sort of scroll through this version? Would that be helpful? Or should we just look at the economic information sheet with our 15 minutes left?
I mean, I did a speed read of the site plan logs I hadn't looked at for a few weeks, so I'm good
Okay.
with it, but I don't know about other folks.
I have no complaint with this site plan review.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm fine with it.
Thank
Yeah.
you. Great. So then the only change then will be on the section 3.030 wordsmithing, some of that language giving authority to require this as a discretionary. Okay, then let's go over the economic information sheet.
Sorry, let me chime in one thing, and that is, I did finally talk to somebody about DEC to see if I can better understand this natural resource areas and protections. And he shared a map with me, which is not public because it has where rare plants are and they don't want people to go and dig them up. And so he made another suggestion, because I talked about the fact that, the habitat that might support this kind of bird is pretty broad and it's in an awful lot of the town. And how's that a developer going to work with that? And he made some suggestions that included something like overlay zoning, in which you might say mature woodlands are particularly valuable for certain habitats. Our goal is to preserve 30% of the mature woodlands in the town. So basically look forward in zoning to try to think through some of these things. And in terms of how I think we might use existing things like the maps, I'm still working on that. So I'm not suggesting we say anything different in the draft that we have before us, but I will continue to work to see if there are ways to refine it to make it more user-friendly, both for the board and for a developer. And, eventually when this comes forward from the town board for people to consider, or maybe before that, I will try to do something to make it easier to use and more clear what we're looking for.
Right.
So I just wanted to give you a heads up. I won't be trying to uncut the group, but I'm hoping to see if I can make it better.
Great. Yeah, that certainly, those resources would certainly be helpful for both sides, for the town and for potential developers. Anything else on the site plan review law? Okay. Thank you. Let me switch over to, I'll go to Ken's Ken's suggestions, I think, just because that just shows the most comments so far on the economic information sheet. Oh, and then Ellen, I believe you had a comment as well on the opening line.
Can you make it bigger?
Yeah. Yeah.
No, I don't
That-
think so.
Oh no, I'm sorry. No, that was for the that was for the,
Basically, will the jobs, it said pay a living wage, and I wanted to know if they would have benefits.
yeah. Oh, that's right. Okay. Okay. So then let's go over this here. As I had said on my email, I think that, and sorry if this is jumping around, I'm just trying to position it to where I can see you and the Word document. So I had suggested, or I'd alluded to on my email, that this information sheet, you know, is going to be answered probably by just some business owner.
Yeah.
And I think some of the questions here are good, Ken, that you added in, and there was some support for them. But I think that some of them might be difficult to assess from just an average business owner's perspective. I think that this question is fine. If prevailing wages, state mandated, are paid, will higher wages be paid to entice employees away from local businesses? I mean, that's a yes or no question.
No, I don't think that's a fair question at all.
Yeah, it's not,
Is that my goal? Anyway, Barbara?
it just is not a question that can be answered in that context. You,
And you're attributing a desire to entice the employees. It sounds malevolent. I think to ask what the wages will be is reasonable, or living wage, but I don't think we should.
I didn't know how to make it a negative. I feel that's a negative
Yeah, but
impact
that's,
for the town. But I
I'm
didn't know how to put it.
but Ken, I think that's something for the site, the review board to look at and to think about, rather than for something that the developer is going to answer.
So Ken, if I'm understanding you correctly, what you're
Throw it out.
pointing out is that paying a living wage may entice the person who's working at the Dandy Mart earning a minimum wage. It might entice them to go work at this new place, and you think that's bad.
It'd certainly be negative to Dandy.
Well, maybe they ought to raise their wages.
So I don't know how to put it. If these are just things that came to mind, I threw them down there. Throw it out if you don't like it. There's no skin off my nose. I just, this is something
And-
that can happen. I've seen it happen. I worked at Lowe's for a while. They'd run, some of the management would run over to Home Depot. Hey, you look like a good worker here. You know, what are you getting paid? $12 an hour. Look, I can give you 13. Come on over to my place.
That's capitalism.
Yeah.
Yes, it is.
Free market.
So, okay, throw it out. Throw
Okay,
it
let's-
out. It doesn't bother me. None of these, you want to throw them all out. It doesn't bother me. I
Yeah.
just thought of these different things.
No, they're worth thinking
That's
about.
all.
Right.
Yeah.
So I'm a
Okay.
little confused by the first one and the state wages, but here's, if you want to fix it, what I would recommend is away from that, the enticing word, but like, do you anticipate the need, to pay higher wages in order to attract employees or something, but I think it gets really convoluted. So I see Ellen shaking her head. I don't blame her.
No.
Yeah,
Okay, no problem.
This is Barb. I would just encourage that these questions be limited to those that the developer can answer on their own with, with their own
Yeah.
information. They have no idea what, Ken, with all due respect, Lowe's and Home Depot know each other, they know that those things exist, but, a developer who is
Oh,
just
yeah.
coming into this, may have no idea what Dandy or Brookton's Market or anybody pays. And so really just limiting the questions to what the developer can provide based on their own development proposal, I think is what we should aim for here.
Yeah, along those lines, it looks like the third question would work pretty handily, but the first two
Yeah.
might be harder.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I'd bring that up for this one too. This one's
Yeah.
difficult to answer.
Good.
And- Okay.
Barbara, that's
But
a very good perspective.
Yeah, this next one is good. I like it, but the question is what local, again, it gets us back to what local means. And
But I mean, it could just be generically understood and it would be up to the
The board.
developer to explain that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that might be a good way about that, Tim. And then maybe that's just an assessment. Because
And
yeah, if they're 101 miles away, is that
Well,
Okay.
it's still,
I
I
did-
that's great. Go on, Ken.
When I wrote this one, I did not see, I hadn't gotten down to the other one with the 100 miles. But it sounded like the material had to be made locally. You need pine boards are made in Georgia.
I was
and
going
they're
to say
brought up here.
local materials. I
So-
think that doesn't
so
make a
I-
lot.
Yeah, I would encourage focusing on the people. Local contractors and workers are one thing, but local materials, I mean, is that a screw I buy at the Lowe's in downtown Ithaca? Or is that meaning every pine board, every shingle on my roof has to be made in the town of Caroline or in Ithaca or whatever? I mean, I just don't know that it's realistic for a building to be made with significant amount of local materials. And this just says local
Yeah.
materials. It doesn't say significant. It doesn't say one. It's just a little bit
Yeah. How
broad, I
about
think.
to what extent will local materials be used?
But what,
Well-
what are you
I
talking?
I think it's unrealistic.
I didn't-
one point of, this is like sort of a, I mean, these are changeable, but this is just in a job creation category. So maybe, this question could be modified to just be speaking to the job creation characteristics. And then I think there is, what percentage of the materials used in construction or operation of the business will be locally sourced?
Yeah,
Okay.
okay.
And that's actually where I was going to go. I mean, local materials is different, as Ken pointed out, there's no pine board within hundreds of miles of here. But if you buy it at Kugel Lumber, as opposed to buying it from some distributor out of Georgia, that makes a difference. So I think that the locally sourced is a good thing. And I agree, keep the
Yeah.
jobs, list of jobs here.
Okay,
Sorry.
that's
Yasmin,
good.
Yasmin?
That's good.
Yeah, yeah. In regard to your email, Greg. So this form will be filled out by the business, not the economist. I attended the living wage workshop, and I wish certain that everybody knows about what is living wage.
Yeah,
It says it on the document.
it's good question. So currently right now it's 15.37 an hour. And I mean, all I had to do is just Google. So this is from the site plan review law definition that Barbara Lynch put together.
Mm.
So I was also curious about that too, but I think that the thought is that this wage can change maybe every year or 2 years. I'm not sure how often it changes, that then this sheet wouldn't need to be modified so frequently. And it's very easy to Google. If you Google living wage for Tompkins County, it'll pull right up
Okay,
Yeah.
there is a number. No, what I mean is about the concept of living wage. Do you think the local, I mean, the regular businessman knows the idea of living? Maybe,
Does it matter?
It-
oh, okay,
Putting a number here, there's a, they'll have to,
okay,
number, the board has to have a concept of it.
okay.
Yeah.
The developer
All
does. Necessarily.
It's a good question though, Usman. But I think, yeah, it'd be a conversation with the board.
Yeah, and then just flop the, put those italics, I don't know, I guess, I don't know if it's the footnote or just put it underneath the living wage. It's been separated because of putting the contractors line in.
Ah,
Mhm.
Separated.
I mean, in
The-
other words, it should either come right after the living wage question.
Oh, sorry. Okay, yeah. I could, maybe I could put it as a footnote, but
Or as a foot, that's right, that was the other way to do it.
Yeah.
doesn't
Uh,
matter.
I'll just see what it looks. It'd be nice to have this as one sheet, but it looked like there were some other additions that make it into two. So let's just keep working on down. Other thoughts about job creation? And again, just to reiterate, other points being made, they should be relatively quantifiable by a developer and not having to hire an economist. Yes, Ellen.
I just think the reality is dashed lines, thinking they're going to fill that in there is not very realistic. Let's just do it as questions. I mean, suppose they're hiring, the business is going to have 15 employees, So it just doesn't seem to me like we need to make it a fill in the blanks sheet. They can
great.
just
Yeah.
define their information.
Are there objections to that?
It'll make it easier to fit on one page, Greg.
Exactly.
I like it. Yeah, and typically, often with site plan review requirements, a developer will take those requirements and pop them into a Word sheet and then just describe. Especially if you start to see cell towers or solar facilities, they are going to be very thick applications. All right. They're like 200-page applications there, but all right. Anything else on job creation? Jenna? Okay. Business characteristics. So the other comments that came up from this: will the underserved population of the community have access to goods and services with a variety of different items and prices? This, my suggestion maybe, if this is of interest, to keep in something just about, because one, what is underserved population? There might need to be a definition with that, but just maybe something about a variety of different items and prices. I don't know. What are everyone's thoughts on?
Yeah, I think it's the question really gets to filling a void. Is this business, is this development going to give something to the town that is now missing?
That's a good way of thinking of it.
And I don't know how to phrase it, but
Well,
I don't feel that question gets to what you're saying. It's just saying, is it going to be a variety? It's not saying anything about whether it's something we need or.
Well, the word underserved, I think, is what gets it. It's, are there people who do not have access? Think of food deserts as the urban example.
Well, there-
People who don't have access to a grocery store. Well, is this business going to give people something that they don't have access to now?
So I
So
think there's a few issues here. One is that, again, a developer, not with, not having the benefit of a town of Caroline demographic survey, a developer will themselves not be able to identify who or where the underserved populations of the community are necessarily. Secondly, a developer is not going to even, a smart developer is going to do due diligence on what market demand is in the area. So they're not going to come into the area unless they think that their product or their business is going to be successful. So, I'm not sure that this question gets at that. why are you coming here to Caroline and what do you think you're going to get out of it is kind of the question.
Yeah, it's more a question for the site review board to be asking about the development.
It is? What am I supposed to be asking?
You're supposed to be thinking as you make a decision whether this business coming in really is getting goods and services to people who don't already have them.
I have no
Well, you-
authority to make any ruling based on that.
Yeah,
Nothing-
are we going to start curating what businesses come to Caroline? I think that,
Yeah.
businesses have the right to come here if they think they can sell stuff that people want. I don't think it's up to us to, I can't believe I'm saying this stuff, but I mean, it is capitalism and people try to sell stuff and other people want it,
And unless there's a criteria in the site plan review law that's sort of a hard and fast thing,
Yeah,
we don't have anything.
And maybe they're selling better things than the people that are here already are selling. They have the right to try to do that also.
mhm,
Frankly, I think all we can ask is that first question, what product or service will the business provide?
yeah,
And, we can be looking at and thinking about whether there's somebody else in town who provides it. But we're going to be hard pressed to, to do
But-
anything.
And on that, when you have an economic inventory in front of you, you can easily point to, let's say it's a retail store being proposed, you can flip open to the retail market potential and say, oh, a convenience store. Yeah, it looks like our town is short on that potential. Sure, maybe that is a boon to this type of development or,
Or actually,
but that's where an inventory would help.
yeah,
I mean, and I actually see the inventory going the other way, meaning, whether it's a boon or not, well, there it is. But if we look at the inventory and we say, we have 3 stores currently serving that kind of need, we want you to do an economic impact assessment on what will be the impact on other local businesses,
mhm,
right? So it would provide us
Yeah.
ammunition.
Yeah, absolutely. Because the inventory could say Caroline has enough convenience stores, and you're presenting another one. So maybe can you show how you come to this conclusion of establishing in Caroline? Yeah. Okay, I'm going to remove that unless there's objections. Okay. So the next addition was tax revenue.
Can I ask a question about the next thing on the line?
Yeah.
If business products are offered for sale, what percentage are Energy Star certified? I mean, I found myself wondering how many current businesses operating in Caroline could answer that question.
I mean, what if it's a bookstore? Like, you're not going to have Energy Star certified products.
yeah,
So then your answer is 0.
Right. But
But
then,
if you sell appliances, you know that, you go over to, Bishop's or Lowe's or, I mean, they could tell you roughly that they've got, all Energy Star certified or half or.
well, then maybe the products should be identified in a different way, like rather than just products, it should be, I don't know.
Right. Products for which a
appliances,
rating
you're selling
exists.
appliances or something.
No,
Right.
I would add something like if business or products for which energy ratings exist,
Yeah,
what percentage
Sure.
of Energy Star certified?
exactly. That would be a good addition, I think.
mhm.
I wish we had a bookstore in Caroline.
Uh-huh.
Well, there you go.
It should be an energy rating or something like that.
Okay.
There's a free bookshelf at the town hall.
Not the same thing, just, wouldn't it be awesome? Bookstore with coffee, man.
We have coffee too.
Start it up, Michelle. I
Yeah,
think
but it's
there's
closed.
the market can absorb it. Maybe.
Sounds like there's a need for that market. That's right.
The only problem is we just closed the town hall to public access today.
The next question gets back to what we were talking about. But if it said what percentage of materials used in the construction or operation of the business will be locally sourced, doesn't purchased, so maybe locally purchased.
That's a good idea.
Yeah, I think we're talking about just not,
And the manufactured needs to go away, I assume.
Yeah.
And is that good enough?
Yeah, and I wouldn't put 100 miles. We'll just let them talk about it, right?
Mhm.
What percent? Sorry.
I don't think there should be a hyphen between locally purchased, should there?
I don't
No.
think so
No.
either.
Purchased low, yeah. Okay.
Yeah,
And-
like is cement Energy Star certified?
So I took this language from part of some of the greenhouse gas emission, like the energy section of the site plan review law.
Right.
So I was trying to draw some parallels, between the two. And so maybe saying Energy Star certified is not, necessary, but I wanted to, that was a topic that kept being brought up as part of this economic impact review sort of topic.
I would actually, I'm scratching my head a minute thinking, why are energy questions in our economic data sheet?
Well,
There are energy questions being posed, are there not, as part of the site plan review law?
that's a good, let's,
Well,
Let me
in
go-
terms of the products for sale, I think that might work because we're asking, what do you sell?
Yeah.
And if Kellen has a vision of the kinds of businesses we might want, businesses that support the planet, right?
Yep.
So I can see that as the grounds for asking about the clients and things for sale. That's a little less strong for what you built your building out of.
so I just pulled up the site plan review law just to point everyone to, this section. So, the development shall work to mitigate energy use. Applicant shall demonstrate how energy and water will be managed for the development in relation to the county's energy recommendations. I believe I'm just going to keep scrolling. I think there were more. Yep. So I just took it from, this Energy certified products. The development is encouraged to utilize Energy Star certified products.
The board
going
already would be asking for these things.
Say that one more time, Ellen.
I guess it means that the board could or should also be asking them to answer these questions. If you're encouraged to utilize it, tell us what you're doing. I'm not sure it belongs in the economic data sheet. I think the board would
Okay.
be asking, and yeah, I don't know. It seems like,
Sure. So maybe the economic information sheet is purely just some of the economics kind of information of it. Other thoughts on that? I'll go back to the.
That makes sense.
Sometimes
Yeah.
it depends on the development that's coming in.
What do you mean by that, Ken?
Well, we were talking about in the line before that, selling refrigerators, appliances, a rental place. We don't want the people freezing out either. We want them to use good materials here. That's to me a possibility. It'd be nice to know that they're going to use Energy Star materials, which at the same time, any business development, it would be crazy not to try and use the best materials energy certified so that they're not wasting energy out the roof or whatever.
You would
So
think that. That's a good,
I've lost. Well, we'd want them to.
yeah.
And I think that's a really, really good point, but I'm wondering if that isn't covered, in the site plan, and whether this questionnaire might be clear if it just sticks to the specific economic points.
Well, one thing we could do is look at the site plan review law where it's talking about what they have to submissions. And I wonder if we want to put in oh God. I'll try and find,
But you're right. I mean, the question that says percentage of Energy Star certified products could become part of the check sheet in the
Yeah.
site plan if you offer things for sale that have such ratings.
Mhm.
I just looked it up, and building products that would be Energy Star certified are things like doors, windows, roofing products, and insulation.
Right.
But it seems like that's covered in the site plan review law.
Or if not, the site plan could be beefed up just a tad.
Yeah,
That's
so
what I'm
so maybe right here under, can everyone see the site plan review law?
Yes.
So maybe in building design, this is about the proposed development needs to provide the following: building placement, building design, not limited to, massing, materials, fenestration, entrances, canopies, everything in the design standards, but maybe maybe it's in this bullet, or it's, right after about information regarding the not sure the language here, but something about just asking for this, just about the the specs, essentially, the energies, specifications of the construction of the building.
I think that'd be good.
Okay. Energy specifications. The building's construction and operation. I mean, energy specifications. Buildings.
But it should be clear, like energy specifications is saying, tell us, the Energy Star ratings of your windows and doors or whatever, something like that, right? It has to somehow.
Could you just say specifications and ratings and leave it at that? Would that be clear enough?
Sure.
Yeah, that sounds good.
And they can come to you guys for clarification, Ellen.
Yep.
Ellen, are you suggesting then to remove these words and just keep it at energy
No.
specifications and ratings, or no?
No, I wasn't. No,
Okay.
I think that's good.
Okay.
And maybe
It leads us when things are for sale, that's really not part of site plan. So potentially that question stays on the economic sheet or not, where it says what fraction of your things for sale, if they've got ratings, have good ratings.
so I think that it belongs in sale, but I would say instead of buildings, certainly not with an apostrophe S, I don't think.
Ellen was still fixing your last one. Sorry.
Is it buildings?
Yeah, it is buildings, construction and operation, which that includes, ground up and moving forward.
Yep. I guess what I'm saying, is there anything other than buildings?
Oh,
In that list, if you scroll down to O, in the site plan review law list under that section you were looking at, if you scroll down to O, which is already there, it says predicted energy use and measures to minimize energy use and use of fossil fuels.
Perfect.
Right.
okay.
Maybe you
What's
could
there?
say including.
Thanks, Barb.
It's there. You took out semicolon after on the end of C. But
We
Well,
don't need C now, right, Barb? Is that
I'm
what
going
you're
to remove
suggesting?
C.
Okay.
My opinion is we don't need C, but
I
I'm
don't agree.
just
I
pointing
think-
it out.
I think predicted energy use is not as specific, and I would include something that said predicted energy use and measures, including energy specifications and ratings of the building's construction and operation.
That's
So
fine.
the-
Yeah.
Okay, so I guess what I'm hearing is just making it clear that it's operation and construction.
And that it includes specifications and ratings. Because predicted energy use doesn't necessarily mean that they're going to tell us what kind of windows and doors. Okay? So the sentence that you put in as whatever number it was, can we amend O to include that?
I think it's P. It's-
Yeah, well, it's currently
Well,
P because we
yeah.
put in C, but if you take out C, it becomes O.
Oh,
And
right.
Alan's suggesting inserting that into what is again,
Oh,
I get it.
or sorry,
Oh.
oh.
Okay, let me just get it up here so we can all kind of see it together.
This is Gilbert
Um,
Sullivan, right?
Predicted energy use and measures to minimize energy use and use of fossil fuels.
And,
you could put including.
okay, or
Including.
including.
Thank you.
And it, yeah, okay.
Okay.
That looks,
Wait a minute. Oh, he just put it in.
I need to make sure to note this for changes to the edits. Okay.
Good. Good. It's a good thing Ken included those questions because it's making us realize where we need to put things.
Yes.
Okay. Let me go back to the sheet. Okay, so okay, so then should we just remove these two questions?
I guess
No.
I'd vote for
No.
keeping the first and removing the second.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. So then moving down, I just had put the anticipated yearly revenue of the business. I knew that there were questions about tax revenue. I just thought that by saying what's the yearly revenue of the business, then maybe it would be the site plan review board or others could maybe interpret that based on the tax rate of the town.
I'm sorry, you mean calculate the tax rate that the board would do that?
yeah.
Right. Well, so I think that from the revenue, there's a certain, I think must be certain sales tax, but you don't necessarily know the property tax from the
Right.
revenue of the business, I assume.
Mhm.
Okay. So then maybe this question isn't even necessary.
Right.
Especially, does the town get any of the sales tax back?
No,
Zero? Okay,
0.
so for the town's purposes, that's not really gonna help us, is it?
Okay, so I'll remove this question about the yearly revenue.
But the town would get property and school taxes.
Yeah.
Right?
But so
Does-
sales-
doesn't
So actually,
the- Once the county has reached a threshold, does the town get some sales tax? They don't receive it directly from the business. But,
Yeah, I don't think
you
so,
know,
Ken.
based
They-
on the question that was before that, revenue of the business, they would know approximately the amount of sales tax goes to the county. But that doesn't mean that
Mhm.
it would all come back to the town, but I know the towns that forego their sales tax until a point in time, there's a threshold met, and after that, those towns in a county will receive their portion of the excess sales tax that the county has received. And you're telling me that that doesn't happen in Caroline?
No, I think the way it works here, Ken, is, I mean, we, our sales tax revenue is credited to our county taxes. So it lowers our county taxes.
Okay.
So for the town taxes,
Yes,
it
but
doesn't
once,
affect the
once,
town taxes.
but doesn't once that a threshold is met and you've done taken care of that, sales tax comes back to you? I mean,
Not-
one year I
not-
know our town got $6, another year got about $1,800.
Huh.
A big difference in our budget.
Yeah, so not of which I'm aware.
You can check it out.
I have never
Okay.
received that, so.
Can I
I-
just say that the question now, the way it reads, what tax revenue might be expected from this development says property, school, and sales tax. So it kind of covers that
Yeah.
information.
Do we want to specify that this is tax revenue to the town of Caroline?
I don't think
Is
so. I'm sure the developer would know.
No. Because the
Well,
school
they know what
tax
town they're
is-
in.
But I don't understand. We pay property tax and school tax.
But some portion of that comes back to the town, not all of it.
Yeah, but that's
Am I
not,
right, Mark?
that's not their business.
That's what I'm saying. That's why I wouldn't ask the revenue to the town, because I think the business owner wouldn't necessarily know that.
Okay,
I would
Hmm.
take out to the town.
okay.
Yeah. Mark, if Shalani, if you can weigh in on that, I think that's correct.
Yeah, so I'm trying to. So,
Property tax is usually town and county.
right, so the property taxes, you know, your taxes are divided up into town and county and school. So the town taxes come to the town and so on. And so,
Okay.
you know, so yes, it is a benefit to the town, and even the sales tax is actually a benefit to town residents, you know, because it offsets their county taxes. So,
But, and the proportion of the property tax that's the town portion is readily looked up by a developer, and similar for school tax?
sure. Oh, yeah, yep.
Okay, so then we could say to the town. That's why I was trying to get clarification on
Mhm.
that point.
Mhm,
And it's just anticipated. It's not a firm figure.
mhm.
Well, and it's also, never mind. I mean, the sales tax, they're not going to have to attribute to the town, and it's really not
Yeah.
to the town. And the school tax sort of similarly, right?
Right.
Supports the school. So
Mhm.
I would be comfortable leaving it like this.
hmm
Answer that question. We're not going to use it in detail at this point. If we're looking at a big
From my perspective, the different, like the school tax, what they pay in, say, to Ithaca School, some of that comes back to the elementary school out here, and their portion might lower the taxes that each of us have to pay.
I agree. That's why we want to ask it, but we don't need
Yeah.
to. I think if we just leave it like this, it gets what we want to. We have 10 minutes left.
Yeah, maybe let's just look at the other questions, and if there's still thoughts on this. And it sounds like, I mean, this will be looked at, this will be looked at at the town board level, and if this isn't, you know, maybe an appropriate question to ask, but let's just move on down to,
Can I just point out that trash and recycling are not a town cost, are they?
Correct.
So that
Okay,
doesn't belong in that question.
okay. Yeah, in this one might be a little difficult. There might be what are anticipated services of the town. You know, I was also wondering about trash and recycling collection. Well, that's through Tompkins County, correct?
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, you could just probably leave it with, take out everything in parentheses.
Okay.
What do people think about that?
Sure.
Yeah, because about the only one is going to be road repair.
Right, so it's kind of, you know, unless the situation of the town changes in the future, right? So we put in public water and sewer,
Mhm.
running right down Route 79.
So then on the anticipated costs, this next question What other municipal costs might be incurred from this development, such as abandonment costs, traffic safety, or public and social services? I think this one might be a little bit difficult to be answered by the developer at this type of review.
It also seems to be just like the one above it, like it's covered
Yeah.
in.
I mean, I do think they are
Yeah.
good, things to wonder and hopefully be able to ask, at some point, but for the purposes of this sheet, I think they're a little bit, I think that first question.
I mean, the
Okay.
review board should be looking at those. That's why we had that possibility of putting escrow fund for abandonment, for example, right? So hopefully that will come up in review.
Yeah.
Okay, I'll delete this. How will the business meet current and future community needs? This will be more of a descriptive answer. So they'll have to provide some sort of description.
Yep.
Okay. Another addition from Ken, will the project contribute to revenue retention
Maybe in the local economy.
to the local economy and I don't know,
What is
I'm
that?
not sure, what does this mean? Revenue retention? Just that we're staying above zero?
I mean, money will be spent in the community, I think is what that means.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
But isn't that? I mean, if
So
it's
I am
going to be spent here.
project contribute
Yeah,
to revenue.
how do you know that?
Yeah. This one it might be a difficult one to ask for this type of sheet.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of reflected in the notion of local workers. If you use local workers and pay them, they're going to spend some of their money locally. So it might be somewhat redundant with some of the earlier questions.
Any other thoughts before I delete it?
Yeah, delete it. I
Delete
agree with you.
What ecological impacts? I believe that we had talked about this last time, that we won't talk about ecological impacts, and
Yes.
this,
Yeah, I mean, they're important, but that's not the purpose of this sheet. I agree.
yeah,
I mean,
exactly. I know. I
that
don't want
needs
to
to
make
be
it sound like they're not
evaluated.
important. Yeah.
Right, but they have to present all of this information in their check sheet, in the
Right.
information
Right.
that's required in the site plan review.
Correct. I deleted that. What effect will this enterprise have on property values in the area present and future? That one I think would be very difficult to answer
Yeah.
without the
And then-
developer doing a market analysis, which to Barb Newth's point before, a good developer, if they are proposing a large development, if it's not just some, necessarily mom and pop kind of store, they will do a market analysis and they might, I don't know about property values, but they might be able to answer some more detailed kind of showing how their X development, meets community needs right now.
Yeah. I mean, that sort of question is for economic impact assessment. Like that would be more appropriate there, I guess, would be my
That's,
view.
I agree.
Which one, Bill? This question?
That question is, it is, like you say, it's a sort of involved question to answer for what's supposed to be sort of a short form that any developer can do, as opposed to a more significant project where the review board has asked for a more detailed economic impact assessment. That's a great question for that.
And the site plan review law does talk about impact on property values. It would be something that would be discussed, but frankly, the impact is likely to be because, noisy or ugly or whatever. So I think that question should come out of here.
All right. Any objections to that before I delete it? Okay. And I think this is a nice question to end on anyway. Gives them a nice sort of open text. And I'm back to my one pager. So that's great.
Glad we could help.
Thank you.
Yeah.
All right. So I have my, I know what I'll work on, and I'll be sending to you either later this evening, hopefully, or first thing tomorrow morning. Yeah, but Tim?
My goodness.
Greg, could you unshare your screen just so we can
Yes.
see each other?
Yep.
Thank you.
Are you saying, Tim, you're going to miss all of us?
And what are we gonna do next Monday night
I
for dinner?
know.
Yeah,
Maybe I'll teach another class.
if we didn't have a pandemic, we could have a party.
Well,
Yeah.
believe me, I was just going to say, if there weren't a pandemic, I would certainly invite you over, and we would have some very, very good holiday cheer. You all have put in unbelievable yeoman's work into this task force, which was, I don't think that the town board would have been able to anticipate the extent of the research and the detail of the contributions that you've made. So what we'll do is, when I get this, I'll present this to the town board. The meeting is on Wednesday. I might just mention, just to remind you, we have 2 public hearings this week related to this project. On Wednesday night, the town board is having a public hearing.
Tim, go over that. Tim, you buzzed out on over
Tim,
Zoom.
repeat
Repeat all that.
Sorry, we're going to have 2 public hearings this week related to items pertaining to the task force. On Wednesday night, we have to have our town board meeting on Wednesday night instead of Tuesday because of a federal holiday tomorrow. But on Wednesday night, we're opening the town board meeting at 7 o'clock with a public hearing on a resolution to extend the moratorium by 180 days, by another 180 days. And I'm sure that the board would welcome as much input as it could possibly receive about this. And so, and that could be either submitted in writing in advance or public comment. I think the public comment could be extremely helpful. So if you want to pass the word about that, that'd be great.
What
And
time is that meeting?
7 o'clock.
Okay.
And then the next night at 7 o'clock, we're having a public hearing for the revised comprehensive plan. And that will be a public, on Wednesday night, after the public hearing regarding the moratorium, there may be a vote by the town board on that. We've put it on the agenda as a potential item, action item. Then on Thursday night will be a public hearing regarding the revised comprehensive plan. There won't be any action taken on that night. This is a public hearing for the revised comprehensive plan. So the plan would then be approved after that. And when that approval takes place probably will depend somewhat on what happens on Wednesday night and how the board decides to proceed. Right, Mark? Is that accurate?
Yeah, I think so. That's pretty, yeah. Yep.
Did the comp plan go through county review already?
Mark?
Mark, you frozen? You froze.
Frozen.
Sorry, I
Yes,
asked a tough question there.
Let's just-
Well, yeah.
I
So
believe it's been submitted, I think.
Okay,
I think
just curious.
Yeah.
Because we're always
Of course it would be.
reminding our.
we wouldn't take action on it until that happens. So, you know,
Sure.
part of the- Mark, the question.
Mark, you're back.
So
Oh, well. You know, we just need better internet out there in the boonies.
yeah, it's usually good. I wonder what else is going on in the house. Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, so yes, the comp plan is under 239 review. And I hope to have approval by the meeting or shortly thereafter. So,
And you've also done some of all the seeker work on it too?
yeah, I submitted the seeker form with that, and we've assigned the board lead agency, and that's been distributed to the board. That full environmental impact statement is on the town website with the draft comprehensive plan, under documents, under town planning docs. So yes.
We
Great.
are a hardworking board. Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah, yes.
Well, but this board hasn't met every single week of an entire fall. So this has been a very, very hardworking board. I just want to thank everybody and also for the the congeniality and respect of the discussions and everybody's really hard work and thoughtful considerations of everyone's comments. It's really, for me, it's been a delight to participate in. And we
So
look
we're
forward to
party
carrying
when
on these
COVID is over,
conversations.
right?
Pardon me?
You'll always party when COVID is over.
Yes,
Yeah.
absolutely. We
Yeah.
will definitely have a party when COVID is over.
Many reasons.
And hopefully it will be at a warm time of the year
Fortunately, it will be.
so we can
Yes.
enjoy gardens.
Yeah.
Thank you,
Yes.
everyone.
Okay, thank
Just
you.
wishing you the very best for the
It's been
holidays.
great.
And maybe we'll see you at the public hearings this week.
Okay.
We appreciate
Hey,
everything that you've done.
Dave,
Thank you so much.
Bye.
And Greg, I'll be in touch tomorrow morning or whenever.
Yep. Yeah, and I will too. Very good.
Great. Okay,
Thanks.
thanks.
Bye.
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 Good night, everyone.